You're listening to the Better People Podcast. I'm your host, Tom Warner. With us this evening is Rhonda Ramirez, licensed professional counselor from Central Texas. And tonight's topic, Rhonda, is one you picked, and you're calling it...
How do you know when you should rest?
How do you know when you should rest? Well, Rhonda,
and what does that look like?
when should we rest, and what does that look like?
Yeah. Well, I was just thinking, the winter has pretty much ended. We're into spring officially. The time has changed. We have longer evenings. We start to kind of fill up our evenings because it's brighter longer. So we have time to do that. We start to fill up our evenings. If you've got kiddos, there's like team sports and end of the year activities that get started. If anyone's towards the end and they've got a graduation in mind, there's all kinds of events that go from here until the end of school. Even if your family isn't involved in a school, it just starts getting fuller because, we want to use our sunlight, and it feels good outside. I just think, and there's just, we're not, I would say, in general, as Americans, we're taught to work hard, and, as long as we work hard, we're good, but we're not necessarily taught you also need to rest. Right. You just keep working, You just keep working and work hard and long, and you'll be fine. Well, that doesn't always work. First of all, it's not sustainable. We can't just work forever with no rest. But we also can't be busy forever with no rest either. As always, there has to be a balance. We can't, be so far down the road either way. So, rest is really, really important for our body and our mind and our soul. And when we rest appropriately, we're probably more efficient at the things that we need to do and have a little more presence, hopefully, at the things that we want to do. So I just thought maybe we should talk about some resting stuff.
I like that. So
yeah.
How would you build this up? Would it be, what are the signs you are needing rest, or should you go ahead and pre-build rest patterns into your schedule?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first let's talk about sleep. We really, as humans, really do need between 6 to 9-ish hours, depending on who you are, of sleep a night. And the reason why we need sleep is that when we are sleeping, our brain is filing all the information from the day. And so your brain is not stopped or dead when you're sleeping. In fact, you have more brain waves and more brain activity when you're sleeping than when you do zoned out watching a TV show. So your brain is doing all of this nice cleaning and organizing when you're sleeping and getting you ready for the next day to be able to think clearly, to be able to think quickly, to respond well, to have, it also is preparing you for, how to react to emotions. If you're watching a toddler, when they're tired, they can go off the deep end super quick.
I mean, I can go off the deep end super quick if I'm
me
tired.
Too.
So
yes, me too. If I'm tired, you better check if I'm hungry, or if I'm tired, it's just going to be pretty bad pretty quick. So, that rest is really important. Now, I know that there are some people that have sleeping issues and just can't sleep well, but it's really important to get into a routine before you go to bed of the same thing, similar things, at least every night before you go to bed, because when you do that routine, it's signaling to your body, hey, we're going to shut down, time to slow down. We don't have to keep thinking. So whatever your routine is,
well,
if it's
part of the routine, and it sounds like you're about to get into that, but healthy routines, because I know it binge watching something on Hulu or Netflix right before bed, or binge scrolling on
Right.
TikTok or Facebook may not be the best course of action to wind yourself down. So I think it's finding healthy routines to wind down to.
Yes, correct. So I will say I'm not very good at having that separation.
And neither do I. Do as we say, not as we do.
But I do go to bed. I do go to sleep in a room that is pretty dark with nothing else in it. Anyway, so yes. So if we can have just a little bit of separation from the TV, the phone, whatever, it may start out like 5 minutes or 10 minutes, and you may build up to 20, whatever is really comfortable for you. But partly, yes, because your brain is just kind of, it's kind of doing that death circle that you get on the computer. Mm-hmm. It's just kind of spinning. So we don't want that. We want to signal to your body and your brain, hey, it's time to go to bed. So also the lighting in your house. In the evenings, I have like Christmas lights on. That's about it. Mm-hmm. So, the lighting in your house, the activity that you're doing, of course, for me, I have a routine of going to the bathroom, brushing my teeth, putting on some lotion on my face. Some people, take a shower and then do all that. And then, the environment of your room, if at all possible, if you can sleep with it darker, that'd be great. When I do plug in my phones next to my bed, but I always put them face down. Mm-hmm. That way the lights don't pop up or anything like that. Plus, the phones have this cool little nifty feature where you can put it on sleep. And as soon as it's time for you to go to bed every night, it automatically puts it on sleep. So there's no notifications going off.
Mine does that. Mine's iPhone, but I think there probably is an Android equivalent to that.
Yeah, for sure. And it's a really nice thing because I set in what I try to go to sleep at, what time, and then I think it's about 15 minutes beforehand is when I also set that to go off. And so my phone is already doing that for me if I just allow it to, if I just set it down. And then, in bed, I also try to sit or lay actually and just kind of not necessarily zone out, but concentrate on my breathing. If I'm having a hard time falling asleep, I generally don't personally, unless I'm stressed. And then of course I have a hard time falling asleep. But the environment in your room is important. Some people need music to a little bit of noise or music to go to sleep. I can't play music because I just want to sing to it, and then I'm up all night. So there's all kinds of those little things to get that physical rest because you do need sleep, and it is important that you get enough sleep that you get into your REM cycle of your sleep. So your brain, and that's where you dream. So if you have dreams, you're probably getting some deep sleep. It may feel like you're working a lot in your dream because I had a dream.
I'm going to nerd out for a second. So I'm a fan of the Star Trek, and I'm talking the good one, the original, Picard. Not I say original, the Next Generation. There was an episode, and anyone who's listening who has any inkling of what I'm talking about, an episode where the crew just started to go crazy, like just nuts. It's because they weren't getting REM sleep. Their brains were not able to enter REM sleep, and so that was the brain's way of decluttering itself and filing everything. Right. And when you don't do that, you can go crazy. And so Star Trek logic, I'm assuming it's right. It's all science, but
it's pretty close.
So I ever since when I can't remember my dreams for a long time. Keep in mind, you dream, and sometimes you don't remember dreaming. That's common too. But when I can't remember a dream I've had in quite a long time, I start thinking of I'm going to go crazy, and so I just geeked out, shared a little little science fiction for our fans here, but that is one thing I think about is you got to have REM sleep for that reason.
But it really is true. You have to have enough sleep to where you're getting that deep sleep, and your brain is able to kind of reset for the next day. But that is physical rest. It also helps your emotions and just kind of your soul to be like rested. But I also think about resting from social media, or resting from just electronic stuff, or things that kind of take over your life and you feel like maybe are controlling you instead of you're controlling them. So that could be lots of things for lots of people. I know that I have known families that had to take a year's break from kiddos' sporting events, just because it had gotten out of control. They had multiple children. It had gotten out of control. And they're like, we do not want that to run our lives. We want to be able to control that. So they took a rest from that for a year. And then we're able to regroup and decide, okay, well, let's pick some instead of doing them all, kind of thing. But if you need to rest from social media, or rest from just having your phone in your hand, sometimes even just putting it somewhere where you cannot get to it is helpful.
Yeah.
For 30 minutes.
Well, for example, in this moment, as we're talking, of course, my phone wasn't at low charge, but it needed to be charged. I've laid my phone on my wireless charger, and I'm about 3-4 feet from it, and it connects through Bluetooth for us to talk, and so I'm not tempted to zone out, and not that I have, Rhonda, I promise I don't zone out when we're talking, but
that's all right.
I've not been tempted to go look up something relating to the topic. Sometimes I'll do that.
Correct.
And so that has helped. And I would also say, and this is something you'll probably get to, is I've heard someone use the phrase, and I liked this. It is, I'm in a season of no, meaning I'm not volunteering. It's not that I'm trying to be rude, but I don't have, I'm all volunteered out. So I'm not saying no forever, but at this season, it's no until I can regroup on my life end and get things back in check.
Right. And that is the ideal, is to get things back in check, to get things back in balance, and to really decide what are the things that are important and I want to prioritize them, and what are the things that I've been doing just because I've been doing them.
Right.
That might not be the best reason for us to continue to do them. So, we gotta rest from lots of different things sometimes. Now, there is a physical time when you have to rest. If you have been going, not only, sleep, yes, but like seriously, if you have been working and out of your home consistently for, long days on end, sometimes you have to say, you know what, I'm not going to do that because I need to be at home just for a little bit, just to kind of, again, reset. And that doesn't necessarily mean you're asleep. That just means I just need to kind of get in my place and reset. Kind of, I've been out. There are days, I know there will be days here in the next 6 weeks, 7 weeks for me personally, where I may leave my house at 6:30 and I may not come back till 8:30 or 9, and do it again multiple days in a row. That often I need to come, there has to be time where I just have to come home for an evening and just be at home, because there's been so much stuff going on that isn't the case.
And you got people like me, like Rhonda, you got time to record?
Yes.
I'm going to make myself feel like this is therapeutic for you. So no, I'm just kidding. This is part of your rest. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, sure. There are other things that we have to rest from, just like you kind of mentioned, that season of no. Yes, if you have continually volunteered doing something, maybe you take a month or two off and say, okay, let me, I do still like it. Maybe you still like it. Maybe you don't. If you don't still like it, probably not the place for you. But if you do still enjoy doing that, just take a little rest of a couple of weeks and be like, let me let me get back to where I really remember what I'm doing here. Now, sometimes we need that emotional rest, and that you have to be really aware of, I would say, people who are sucking your emotions and energy out of you. And sometimes that means that, okay, well, I can't eat lunch with my buddy at work because we get into these conversations where it just is really intense, and I don't get time at lunch to rest so that my brain is clear for the afternoon. That is an emotional rest thing. It might mean that you have to emotionally rest from, specific people that you try to interact with. Are they really positive people? You might have to take a little rest from them and kind of think about what am I doing, and is it important, because they drain my emotions every time we're together. And that's probably not the healthiest relationship. So you might have to decide, is that something I need to rest from? Is that something I need to readdress with this person?
Sure.
And then, mentally, even just working. My life is structured in hour increments, so I innately get a break every 50-something minutes. But if you are at work and you're working a chunk of time on a specific project, you really do need to take a 5-minute break, walk around the room, walk around the circle, maybe get out of the room and do a different environment for just 5 minutes. Because when we give our brains the space to relax a little bit, they will problem solve better.
It's true.
Because
well, go ahead and finish that out. And I was going to say, there's a tool I use in my email that helps me.
Oh, nice. What does it say? Some of my best ideas have come when I've been taking a shower, or in the middle of the night, I'll wake up and I'll be like, oh, I know how to fix this. Or in the summer, if I'm floating in the pool, I've got great ideas because I'm not focusing on things, and my body is physically resting, and your brain can actually spend some energy being like, hey, have you thought about this? So what's your tool?
So, and this is built into, our company uses Office 365, but built in, I get these notices that it sends me an email from the system, quote unquote, that lets me schedule focus time. It looks at my schedule and it schedules for me focus time. It schedules for me relax time of like 5 minutes, as you were saying.
Right.
And it schedules for me follow-up time, like get back to emails and check in with people. And so I'm playing with it. It's a toy, I can always change it and move it around.
Yeah, alter it.
I've used the focus tool for quite a while, but the other two, I saw those today. They're new to me. Maybe they've been around for a while. And so, but they book it on your calendar, and it tells you, hey, it's time to respond to people differently, or hey, it's time to focus, or hey, go take a break. And that's a tool that does it automatically, but nothing keeps you from blocking out your time throughout the day to say, from this time to this time, I'm going to focus on this. I'm going to take a break at 9:15 until 9:30 and do this. And you've got to follow that through all the time, consistently. And I know there's weird exceptions, and I get it.
Of course.
But if you can at least communicate, and then if you can communicate that to your coworkers to say, listen, at this time I do this. One thing I do that I used to not do is I force myself to leave for lunch. Either leave completely if I can, or leave the environment and go to a completely different part of the building. And used to, I'd work through my lunch and I would I'm getting so much stuff done. Well, yeah, maybe, but
maybe
I'm not, because then I come back and I'm like, I have had no break today. And people, eventually Thomas, he works at lunch, give him a call, whereas if I can get myself out of the situation, and I'll try to do it even during stressful moments, to say, I've got to take at least a few minutes to walk away and do something else, eat lunch or sit in my car, which is sometimes what I'll do, just to decompress.
I do the same. If I don't plan on leaving the the parking lot, is what I call it. If I don't plan on leaving the parking lot, I'll either go to another teacher's room. I don't even have to talk to them. And most of the time we don't. I just sit in another environment, or there are times where I do just go sit in my car, especially today was beautiful.
Oh, yeah.
So on beautiful days, I'll go sit in my car, roll down the windows, and seriously just spend, 20 minutes, 30 minutes outside. And then there are days when I do need to drive a bit. So
Sure.
I drive down the big road in town and come back up, and usually I'm good.
Yeah.
It's just a change of environment and a change of, like, I'm moving, because in my job I don't move very often. So I'm moving. That really helps my mental rest. And, you're right. If you don't structure your time where people understand that I do take a break, they will just use all your time.
Yeah.
And then there's no rest.
Yeah. I'll say also that I'm not the best at it, but I try, I do what I can to at least say it is 12 o'clock. I'm going to do something not work related for a little bit. Mm-hmm. Now, sometimes that becomes personal, like, okay, it's work for personal life, but I try to get myself, as I say this, I think of one thing I still need to do on a personal side that I keep saying I'll do at lunch and I forgot. Gosh darn it. The teacher thing's interesting, though. You said how you'll go to another teacher's classroom. So I work with she used to be a teacher in kindergarten in the Temple area. And she said that, and she actually will just walk into your room and sit her laptop down and start working. And she's like, do you care if I do this? Like, I don't care. I have no concerns with it. And that's how she copes with her stress, is she just, she like office shops or office rotates, around different people, because she works at another office out of our area, like another building, but she'll come up to our town every week or so. And she'll just hop around people's offices and just talk, not really chatting a whole lot, working, may ask a question or two. And then she's like, this is how I handle stress. And she's a teacher, so I don't know if that's a teacher thing or what that is. Yeah.
Well, sometimes it's not ideal for us to leave the campus, so we have to be on campus somewhere. So it's just better if we are not in the same room.
Well, and one time I walked into a teacher's classroom during her off hours, and I was a kid, I was like, probably ninth grade, and I couldn't find her. I walked, and she was a science teacher, so she had her classroom was differently structured physically, and I go behind where her lectern is, and she's just flat on her back. Laying on the floor, saying, "Oh, hey, Thomas," and she gets up and I'm like, "Are you regenerating? What are you doing?" So,
I do, like, if it is just really chaotic, I will go in my storage room where it's super dark, and I'll just sit in my chair in the storage room just for a few minutes, where it's completely quiet, and it's just enough time to, again, just give yourself a mental, emotional break.
Yeah.
So we have physical, we have mental, we have emotional. And then we also, there are times where we need, like a spiritual break. And I'm not saying like to stop spiritual things or, but it's more of getting back to like the basic stuff. Again, not doing all the extra stuff, but really focusing on whatever that belief is, and going back to the basics of that. And that it's not resting in the same way as physical, mental, and emotional, but it is resting in, okay, this is where my belief lies, and all of the other stuff may be helpful. Usually in my world, it usually is helpful to somebody, but it may not be helpful to me at the moment.
Well, it's like, depending on your faith, but I'm trying to find something that's mostly universal, like meditation, meditation in itself, whether that's prayer or just getting, just not, kind of blurring out your thoughts, some sort of meditative approach. And that's a really basic, simplistic approach. In this case, for a lot of faiths, and even,
absolutely.
And so that's something that because coming from my background, I'm kind of a Christian faith, and so
Right.
it's like, oh, we're going to study and read, and we're going to go to church every Sunday and Wednesday, and
Every time of the day, it's open.
And not that I'm faulting people for doing that. I mean, that's
right.
great.
No,
I'm glad.
That's a great thing.
But sometimes you do have to analyze, why am I doing what I'm doing, and then make decisions from that. You can still continue that schedule, but are you doing it because you feel like that's helping you, further along in your faith, or is that because it's a routine, and I
think you said, like the meditation prayer is a basic thing in almost every faith. And when you think about that, that is an act where you are to be quiet and listen.
Yes, exactly.
In that is a place where you're not filling your space with noise or thought, but you are to be listening. And so I think that is more of the spiritual break I'm kind of talking about, is just saying, just stop and listen.
No, exactly. Exactly.
So so the kind of red flags as to when it's time to do these things. Well, first, we should always be resting physically. So you should always have sleep. It's just so important. It's just so important as water, as important as, some sort of food during the day. Like, it's just so important. So sleep is important, right? But the things that are red flags that are like, ooh, I probably need to do some rest. Irritability is always ooh, what's going on? Let me stop and think about what do I need? And sometimes it's just those really basic stop and resting things. Foggy is definitely for sure. You need for sure probably sleep, but also you just might need some time to clear. You might need some mental rest where you've put everything down and you're sitting in the grass at the park.
Right.
Or, whatever that is, if you have like a mental fog that is not normal, because some people kind of, I don't know that it's normal. I think they just are always going and don't ever stop. Mm-hmm. But if you have that mental fog and it's new to you, you probably need to do some resting, some sort of resting. If you find yourself mindlessly scrolling for hours, probably just time to rest.
Yeah.
Because number one, your eyes can't take all of that. Physically, your eyes can't take all of that. They hurt. But also your brain does.
I was just thinking about TikTok. Well, I haven't had this warning pop up in a while, but TikTok used to, for me, on certain days, it would say, hey, Thomas, why don't you go do something else? And I'm like, how long have I been on here? And so, or Netflix will be like, hey, you still there? It's concerned about me. So
yes, it's chastising you for still being there. So irritability, brain fog. If you have a hard time staying awake during the day, that may also be a clue that you're not getting good rest in the evenings at night, right?
Right.
If you don't have kind of a routine in your body pattern, pretty much if I am not falling asleep by 9:30, then something's kind of up. Mm-hmm. I'm either staying up too late, and tomorrow, which really sounds very old to me now that I'm saying it out loud, but that is the case currently. I think it's just because school starts so early. But anyway, it doesn't matter. If that is not the case, if I'm not getting ready to go to bed or have fallen asleep on the couch, then something is up with my schedule, and it's going to knock everything else off for the next day. So, we just need to be really aware, especially during the springtime, I think, when everybody is kind of ramping up and gearing up and having fun, but not necessarily resting well.
Right.
Because we are doing things that in general are fun and exciting and celebratory sometimes. And June is wedding season, so I'm sure there's lots of weddings.
Sure.
You know, all of these, they're not necessarily bad things, but we do need to like pick some times to rest so that we can enjoy the other part.
Well, and I'll say it's also what you consume from digital to even you know, as simple as I've cut as much. I still drink it, but I've cut out a lot of caffeine, and so I've noticed doing that has actually made because you know, Thomas from a month ago was consuming, you know, Red Bulls and 5-hour energies and Bang and all the time. It felt like if I didn't have an energy drink in my hand, something was wrong, and I'd fly, but then I would you know, decompress around 11 midnight, and as I started to phase those out, I ended up, and again, I'll drink a cup of coffee in the morning, but as I started to phase those out, I've noticed that I can think clearer, and I'm not as apprehensive, and I can rest a little better, and things that I thought were bothering me really aren't bothering me, and you know, and I even know some people that don't consume any caffeine, and I don't know how they do that. Get an appropriate amount of sleep. I have no idea how that works, but I know people that don't even drink caffeine. I don't know those people very well, but I know they exist.
They exist, yeah.
Well, Rhonda, you know, our time's kind of coming to an end here, but this has actually been very, very helpful. I'm actually kind of glad we talked about this because I have taken a lot back from it, you know, on some things I need to adjust in my schedule. So
we just can't go on forever without
we
resting.
cannot.
That's all I got to say.
You know, I want to talk to some successful, what we define as successful, and ask them, hey, how do you live your daily life? You know?
Yeah.
Because just because they're wealthy doesn't make them, and I say wealthy, I mean like, you know, increasingly rich type people, you know, do they live the same? How do they do that? And is that healthy for them? You know, I don't know.
Right.
A part 2 episode or something.
Good question.
We'll have to bring in some successful people besides you know, to talk about that. Well, Rhonda, we're gonna check out for the moment. We're gonna remind people to come back next week. Go to our new website, thebetterpeoplepodcast.com. Check it out. You can send us messages, listen to episodes. We're also on the YouTube and on Facebook and Twitter. And as always, you can email hello@betterpeoplepodcast.com. And I know people are listening, Rhonda, because I see the numbers. They are a few numbers a week. So, all right. With that said, thanks for listening.